Hey, and welcome back into the podcast. I'm Jay. That's Keith.
Hi, Jay.
What's going on? How are you today?
I'm doing great, man.
Good. I'm glad you are.
How are you?
I'm feeling a little underpowered, man. I don't know what that is. I may need to generate some extra power.
That's clever.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think since you're eager to tease the topic of the podcast, go ahead. What are we talking about today?
Keith has an insatiable need for generation, power generation. And we're going to talk about power generation, generators. That's generation. Can you say the word today? The word of the day is generator.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. Yeah. I thought,
I'm looking forward to talking. I'm looking forward to talking about this, by the way, because as we've spoken, but before off air, I don't own one. I probably should.
Well, you say that, but you might actually, and I'll explain that.
Yeah.
So these things most of them are internal combustion based, but there's a lot of versions now, and there's a sort of a growing need for emergency preparedness and that sort of, or people are, I guess, more interested in that. So
it's kind of like,
so I thought,
yeah, I think it's great. It's great. It's you need power, you need bread, you need milk, you need beer.
Yeah, well, power's, yeah. I mean, because you got to have Facebook, right? I mean, you can't, if you can't recharge
that's it. Oh, absolutely. You got to have Facebook, yeah.
All right.
Facebook is a mandatory thing to have while stuck in the dark.
I was so excited for this podcast that I could hardly wait. This happens from time to time to me where I get pretty fired up, but today especially so. A little bit more so than if I'm normally at like an 11, this might be like 11 and a half.
Ooh.
I might have to, there might be some jumping up and down on chairs before we.
Okay. I've seen you get to that level before. So
I got a lot of, honestly, I'm just kind of itching to just get right into the news because there's so much that has happened that I've got to talk about.
Let's get to it. Let's go. Live from PartsCounterGuru.com.
All right.
Well, let's get rolling.
So, you want to start on the easy end of this or the rough end of this? That's kind of actually, let's take a step back. Why don't you tell us about the hat you're wearing today?
Oh, it's called All Natural.
Okay.
Yeah, I bought it yesterday. And a little shaving. Trying to restructure my image, man, a little bit. I was getting, so popular with the hats. I was virtually, it was impossible to go unnoticed on the streets, Keith. So I had to change up my look a little bit today. So
fair enough. Yeah. I can. All right. So, I was watching this, it's one of the Netflix Studios production movies. It's actually pretty good. I was watching it earlier in the week. It's The Highwaymen. It's Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. Yeah. And this is I'm kind of like this, right? So this is sort of how my brain works. So this is set in the 1930s. It's, I think, loosely based on Bonnie and Clyde and the tracking down of Bonnie and Clyde. And at that time period in Texas, the Texas Rangers were more or less disbanded, and the governor brought several of them back together to try and catch these two outlaws, which were kind of pop culture. They were wildly popular, but I learned a couple things. I'm watching this, and they featured a lot of old Ford V8s,
right?
Which was a beautiful automobile. Yeah, and they did it justice in the movie, and
in this newer movie you're saying,
yeah,
right?
in the Highwaymen,
because I haven't seen that, but I'm aware of it, and I've seen the original is it Angie Dickinson and
there's been so many.
To me, that was one of my favorite ones. I like Angie Dickinson. So anyway, sorry,
yeah,
I
no, it's fine.
You there.
So I got some trivia out of this for you. Okay. So well, actually, here let's do some little game show trivia.
I'll take Texas Rangers for 1,000.
Oh, okay,
Alex.
okay. So here's one. So these guys portray Texas Rangers.
Right.
Where's my phone here? I actually looked this up. Two pieces of trivia here. True or false? True or false?
Okay.
Chuck Norris, one and only time portraying a Texas Ranger was on the TV show Walker, Texas Ranger.
I'm going to go with yes.
That would be. Where's my buzzer here? I can't find it. That would be incorrect. The film Lone Wolf McQuade from 1983 starred Chuck Norris as a Texas Ranger.
Okay. I bet a lot of people didn't know that.
All right, I got another one. This one's near and dear to your heart.
Okay.
King of the Hill.
Bobby?
Sorry.
Which character on King of the Hill had a full-time profession as a Texas Ranger? Not the baseball team, the law enforcement division.
Oh, wow, man. You really caught me unprepared with this. Oh, man, what? It's not Boomhauer. It's not Boomhauer, is it? No way.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Boomhauer.
That would be correct. The animated television series King of the Hill featured Jeff Boomhauer, whose profession was a long-running secret. In episode 20 of the final season of King of the Hill that aired September 13th, 2009, it was revealed that Boomhauer was a Texas Ranger, and a shot of his wallet revealing his badge and information.
Man, tell you what, man, dang old Hank, man, gonna get on down, gonna come around,
I was waiting for that.
You best stay off that border, man. I tell you what, come on, get her done. NASCAR.
All right, so there's a hood ornament on these old Ford V8s that they showed.
Right.
They prominently featured in this movie that I was watching. It was actually, it's just a beautiful. I didn't realize this, but Ford kind of was a trendsetter in that, Jaguar kind of followed suit with their hood ornament. Mm-hmm. Do you know what this hood ornament was?
Well, if I recall, it was a greyhound.
It was a greyhound. That's right. And so I'm going to get this wrong, but it either started on Lincoln and then moved to Ford, or it started on Ford, and then when Ford bought Lincoln out of bankruptcy,
it was
they moved it to the Lincoln.
Yeah, it was commissioned by Edsel, Ford's son.
Yeah, his son. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he kind of championed that.
It was during the bankruptcy time. And it was run, I think, until maybe the early 30s. But it was. I don't know that it was on. It was. I don't know if it was specifically for the Lincoln only. But yeah, I mean that was where it came out of. It came out of that bankruptcy union.
Yeah, which Lincoln, as I was thinking about this, is probably one of the longest running examples of buying a company and keeping that branding alive. I mean, it's been a long time. Like you think about companies like Nextel, right? Which we just did a podcast on NASCAR, and they used to be called the Nextel Cup. Well,
right. Sprint
bought Nextel, and they continued to use that brand name for a while, but it's almost non-existent now. Mm-hmm. And then I guess you could use, Apple notoriously buys companies and just absorbs them, but they don't keep the brand name of whatever that. It's pretty unusual to buy a company, bring that company into your fold, and keep the brand name of that company for almost 100 years, like Ford has done with Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I haven't noticed, and you bring this to light about this Greyhound. I don't know that I've seen any of the new vehicles going to that extreme of putting an ornament like that. Because Jag did it. I mean, there were a number of other hood ornaments out there that were so iconic, man. I saw that. Huh. Anyway. Yeah, there it was. So 1927 to 1930 on the Lincoln Greyhound, by the way.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I think now the theft is an issue because as my 9-year-old car enthusiast has pointed out, like the really really high end stuff, like I want to say like maybe Bentley or
probably a Rolls Royce or something.
Rolls,
one of those.
Where they have the thing now where it folds down into the car when you turn the car off, so you can't steal it.
Right, and then there was the Pierce Arrow, which was really cool.
Yeah,
yeah.
A
lot of really really nice iconic. Studebaker had one. I mean, there were. Isn't that funny how we actually talked about design and aesthetics on an earlier podcast.
Yep.
How much art went into these things back then. I mean, I think they're still trying to appeal to that to some degree, but the focus has become more on what's on the inside rather than what's on the outside in a lot of cases. But
yeah,
these things.
Well, we've talked about that too.
Yeah, these are rolling pieces of art.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, wonder what kind of market that's drawing for a stolen, Lincoln Greyhound. Who knows?
Sounds like a podcast topic. Maybe we do some investigative journalism on that, and I go on the black market side of the dark underbelly of vehicle emblem sales.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, what I want to do when we get finished this podcast, man, I'm going to go out on eBay and kind of take a look and see what's out there. But one of the things, yeah. Did you know that Ford had a M8 armored car that they built?
I did not, but that sounds awesome.
That was named the Greyhound. I think the British,
of course.
The British were the ones that were the customer, but it was deemed actually a little bit too light for the job, so it went away. But it was called an M8 Greyhound. So there you go. The things you learn.
Yeah, on this podcast.
Yes.
So on the topic of design and rolling art and not going a podcast episode without talking about Tesla. They had I think they called it Investor Day earlier this week, and Musk was all over the news earlier.
Yeah, I saw that. Gosh, man.
Doubling down on autopilot.
Here we go again, right? We've talked about it, and but there'll be somebody tweeting something that it was supposed to do it for me and it didn't, and I crashed the vehicle, and it's going to be another one of those moments, I'm sure. We're not finished with those guys,
Well, and not just autopilot. Like he's pushing full autonomous. A lot of people that in the media have speculated he's just trying to do this to sort of draw more positive investor reassurance into it. But he's really pushing the envelope there. So there's a video that we are about to release on our channel where I rented a Tesla Model 3 and drove it around, and like literally you get to watch me kind of learn the car because I didn't really know much about it. That's about to come out, so keep an eye out for that.
I'm excited to see that, man. So,
well, it looks like they're going to offer insurance to people as another reassurance of this autopilot feature. Tesla's going to offer that directly. I don't know. It's just like we've said before. It's interesting times to be sort of living and watching all this come out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's every article you read in the auto industry, there's something coming. And folks pay attention because it's going to be sooner than later. And in recent with all of the information that you and I have researched throughout podcasting, some of these podcasts we've done in the past, and then stuff we're still working on about electric vehicles, and then of course the technology that goes into them. My wife and I have kind of looked at each other going, we're in a position to where, maybe an EV is a good fit for both of us.
I saw an Audi commercial yesterday, and I will see if I can find this if they've got it online, and we'll put a link to it.
Yeah.
But it was I thought brilliant, and it almost reminded me a little bit of the old Apple marketing team that used to do these really clever ads. And they call is it e-tron? Is that what Audi calls their electric line,
that
right?
Mm-hmm.
So and here's what caught my attention about it is that the things that they're saying in this commercial, is a TV commercial, were the things in my head before I rented that Tesla, and it was the curiosity that I had to see which ones of those things were true. So they say things in this commercial, and I'm going to get this wrong, but it's just watch for this commercial if you haven't seen it.
Sure.
And it's like, it's from the perspective of the naysayer. So it's like, I shouldn't buy an EV because they have terrible range. I shouldn't buy an EV because they don't do well in cold weather. Something that you and I have talked about on the podcast. I shouldn't buy an EV because I'm not going to be able to find places to charge it. And they show sort of this SUV e-tron, and in impressive ways, of course. They put their best foot forward, and they're kind of countering. It's almost like they're making fun of the person saying that, saying, go ahead, Grandpa, you keep believing that, but it's just not true anymore. And I will tell you this as someone that sort of tried to make it fail from a perspective of just renting one of these things and wanting to go, see, it just can't measure up. It measures up. There's charging stations everywhere.
I can't wait really to see the video that you're going to put out for us. But I'm also interested. We have actually that just opened, and I need to go see what their inventory is available to rent. But I have a rental agency that is within a mile from where I reside.
Yep.
So I'm going to go in and check and see what they've got coming in, and I may rent one just to see what it's all about myself, and because like I said, I'm interested in going there.
Right.
It's not to say that there's probably not other EVs out there that are okay, and maybe from a price point standpoint might fit my budget a little bit better. But based on the information that you've provided me, and you've kind of challenged me to research some of these things a little bit to kind of familiarize myself with it, is that what I like about what Tesla has done is they've really dedicated themselves to a couple of things, which is the cutting edge technology that they're putting in these things and the loyalty to their customer base that they have. And that being people who didn't have the software available to them in their earlier models,
right,
that actually are going to be able to update their software and get in on the game. So in other words, they're not penalized for having an older model. Elon is saying, hey, we're your friend. Here's the software. We're going to let you have fun with it as well. So what was it? Every new vehicle from this point forward in the Tesla lineup will have this autonomous software in it for self-driving.
Yeah,
complete autopilot.
Yeah, and then when
it's pretty cool.
The government transportation safety board sort of allows that, when they hit certain milestones, they'll just unlock it. Yeah. I mean, it's it's not going away, as we repeatedly say. So
no.
Here's something that I'm not sure if I'm going to mention this in the Tesla video or not. So we'll just call this bonus content for our podcast listener. I might put it in the video. I think it's an important point, but it's a pretty long topic. But if you're thinking about buying an EV or you're interested in those, something that has occurred to me, and I would think this is a pretty high level factor. So in your list of sort of criteria for choosing one, service and maintenance, and the problem that I see with Tesla right now is not necessarily the build quality or the vehicle itself, but there are things outside of your control. I mean, things go wrong, right? Whether it's the best made car in the world or not, things can go wrong. Things outside of your control, if it's involved in an accident and you have to have a repair done, right? The Tesla forums I'm seeing a lot of chatter about long delays with repairs, and that has put Tesla at a disadvantage for EV shopping. So, for example, if you want to go after something like this Audi, well, Audi's Audi. They've been around forever. They're a high-end luxury line. You're going to go to the Audi dealer. They're going to get you in line for service, and it's not going to take a month to get the parts, I would think, right? If you buy a Ford EV, it's going to be probably the same expectation that you would have with a traditional Ford gasoline engine in terms of repair time, right?
Right.
I mean, they've done this before. This is not their first rodeo. They know how supply chains work, and they've got that part down. Right. Well, Tesla, I wonder if a month ago, was talking about closing up all their dealerships. So, I mean, what does that leave you from a service perspective?
Sure. And I wonder how how will they address that? I posted something where I hope that we can talk about this at some time, because there's there are services out there, mobile mechanics.
Yeah. We got to get into that we'll
get into that on a podcast. We'll do something on mobile mechanics, but I wonder if it's advantageous to Tesla to have something like that to come to the customer rather than have to wait in line. It might be something that I'm not an owner, so I don't have a direct as an owner link to Elon to say, hey Elon, why don't you have a mobile mechanic to come out or mobile specialist, technician, if you will, come out and see what's wrong with my vehicle. Maybe Sheryl Crow could have her own. I don't know.
Yeah, I bet she'd help you out with that. You just get her to tweet Elon for you, and she'll take care of you, man.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and Cheryl, if you're listening, get it out there. Call Elon. Say, hey, you need a mechanic. Come out to your car.
So, So on the topic of leadership and decisions and corporate decisions and keeping investors happy and all of that, do you see that Netflix is raising their streaming?
Yeah, did I see it? Yeah, I got the email. Yeah, this is like the...
Yeah, this time around it was sort of, hey man, prices are changing.
Right. It was like the second... Yeah, it was the second increase that I've incurred, over the years. I haven't been a Netflix customer too long, but I've been for a few years now. What I found, when we were, I looked at that because, when I wanted to see, how often this occurred.
Yep.
And man, did I uncover the dirt. And this is a big deal, man. And you probably already knew this, but, so they introduced this, and, the first standard premium on it, right? Standard service for Netflix back in 2010 was $7.99 a month.
Yeah.
That's where it was at. And then in April 2013, they offered the premium package, which was an $11.99 per month. And I would assume back then you could download and you could stream, you could download to a device and play it back, and you could personalize a little bit more. And they're continuously tweaking that feature, which I love it because, I love Netflix, but, money-wise, there's a lot of money being made there. So in May of 2014, they had a basic service of $7.99. Then they raised the standard service to $8.99 that same year. That was in 2014.
Yep.
October of 2015, they raised the standard to $9.99 per month. October of 2017, they raised the standard up to $10.99 and then raised the premium to $13.99. And then here we are in January. They raised the basic to $8.99, standard to $12.99, and now, drum roll.
Oh,
premium?
you caught me off guard. Yeah, what's
Come on
the
now.
well, here, hang on. I'll give you your
Come on, I got to have a drum roll. Oh, God, I feel much better about delivering this news. $15.99.
You had me
month.
like, you can go back and watch this. Like you had me just drawn into I was just and I had my hands off the soundboard, and I was just sucked in.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Sorry, man. You had me mesmerized. I wasn't paying attention to my duties.
But here's the bigger thing for me, which blew my mind. And this is I think maybe the point that you were trying to get across with this is like, how much money could you possibly need?
Well,
in the USA alone, and this was late last year, they had 58 million just in the US users of this platform, right? Outside of the US, they're reaching 40 different countries with an additional 79 million subscribers.
Yeah.
Do the math on that. I mean, per month, people, billions and billions of dollars.
Right. So no surprise here. I have some thoughts on this. I have something to say. I know this is gonna come as a shock. Mm-hmm. If this is a shock to you, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. I have an opinion. Welcome to your first ever Parts Counter Gurus podcast. So I have been a long time. So I started with Blockbuster online, and then when Netflix came out, I switched over, and I was getting the DVDs in the mail. Now this was before they had the online streaming service. Then when they offered the online streaming service, I incorporated that, okay? When I got this notice, I just accidentally had... So you know how, like, my email program, if it has the same basic subject line, like it groups them in a thread? Mm-hmm. So this just... I'd happened to forget to delete some of the older notices of price changes, I guess, and so they were all sitting there in the thread, and I was going back looking at them, and I could see sort of what those emails over the course of time have been. And here's my problem with this. So and there's so many different plans, like you were just talking about. The one that I'm on right now, and this might be because I'm a longtime subscriber, it's going up to $13 for the streaming side. It's a 25% increase since in 2 years. Okay, so
like 2 years, yeah.
And I was reading some articles on this, and I said something to my wife, and I was kind of like, yeah, no, it's like $13, right, a month. I mean, it's not a huge amount of money. And she just she goes, yeah, but I mean, look, it's inflation. I mean, everything goes up. And I thought, yeah, but not 25% in 2 years. And that's not the first time that they've made a huge percentage jump in their... Look, 25 cents, 50 cents, that covers that covers inflation. If the cost of inflation, you do a percent increase, right? And as I'm reading some of the online articles about this, the theme was the same. I found a common thread, which is, okay, look, this cord-cutting revolution that started, 5 to 10 years ago, it's kind of come full circle in the sense it's almost pointless now, because you've got Netflix raising their prices to keep their investors happy. So we've ceased to be the customer. It's the investors. Apple's doing the same thing. We talked about this on a previous podcast. They're trying to compete with Hulu. They've got to have more revenue dollars so that they can do shows like The Highwaymen and movies. They are becoming content creators. In other words, they're not just putting shows on that are somebody else's that they're that you can rent or that you can stream. And now you've got Disney in the game. You've got you've got NBC Universal coming out with theirs. Hulu's been around for a while. Amazon Prime Video's been around for a while. All these people are entering the arena, and you're going to get to the point where Apple TV Plus. Well, now it's like, and to boot, people are pulling shows off of like Netflix is about to lose a lot of the Marvel stuff. And they've already canceled a lot of their Marvel shows because Disney owns that. Well, Disney's not going to let them keep that forever if they're launching their own service, right?
That's exactly right.
So it's becoming compartmentalized to the point where now if I want to watch a certain show, I got to have their service. Well, now I'm back to paying between $50 and $100 a month for television, which is where I started with cable or satellite. So what's the point?
Right.
I mean, that's stupid.
Yeah, it's insane, man. It's overwhelming, really, if you think about it.
They're doing these price increases in the huge amounts that they are to help them with the production cost of these shows. I get it. It's just not... and to boot, like as my son pointed out to me, a lot of the shows that he would watch, like kid shows on Netflix, they're gone. Yeah. Because NBC or the company that owns those is like, well, no, we're putting those in our catalog. You can't have them anymore.
Right.
There was a big article about The Office, the TV show The Office, being one of the most streamed shows in rerun history on Netflix, and apparently NBC's toying with pulling that back because it's huge. Why would they let their competitor have it?
So how does that work? I mean, so they're airing it. Netflix is airing it. So
they pay for the licensing to be able to do that.
Right. They play. Right. So they're still getting paid.
Yeah.
They're getting their money.
Right.
But they want more. So what they want more. Well, that's the thing.
The logic is if their competitors like Disney and NBC pick up and pull their shows like the Marvel shows and The Office out of Netflix's, if they just say we're not going to license it to you anymore, now Netflix has got to have the money to make their own shows. That's why they're raising the price.
Yep, and that happens. That's exactly what's going on. And Apple, we spoke of it on a previous podcast about the Apple TV Plus and bringing in some big hitters like Oprah Winfrey, and so they're doing the same thing. It's an exclusivity thing, and which when they do that, it allows them to gain more revenue to do more for you. It's kind of like us, Keith, wanting people to subscribe to our podcast.
That is a fantastic segue. So while we are on that topic, thank you for teeing that up. We have a brand new way to support the podcast. And we're talking about all this online stuff, Amazon and so on. If you're going to do any shopping at all on Amazon, we have a banner at the top. I think it's the top right of our website. And it's just an Amazon banner. If you go to our website, which is what, Jay?
www.partscounterguru.com.
If you go to our website and you click on the Amazon banner and then you click through to Amazon and then just buy what you were going to buy. It doesn't cost any more. It doesn't cost you any more than if you go to Amazon directly, but we get credit for that. And that helps us.
Yep.
That helps with our production costs.
Anything. If you need medical supplies, or you're looking for Christmas ornaments, or that weird pooch outfit that you might need. Maybe you want to try out the new U.S. Postal Service attire line. Who knows? Whatever you might want to purchase, just please do it through our website.
Yeah, and folks, now we have this sort of weird insight into what Jay shops for online, which I don't know where you're going with this, man. Like, I'm buying like oil filters and drain plug,
I'm buying the hood,
crush washers.
I'm buying the hoodie with the quick codes, man.
So yes, please help us and support the podcast. And of course, the other thing you were going to do, which we were about to say before I derailed Jay's train of thought, was subscribe to the podcast. We have a video version of this podcast on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts, and then we have the audio version. The easiest way to find all of them is to go to our website, partscounterguru.com, and there is a podcast links tab near the top. Click on that, and it'll take you to your favorite, whatever your favorite podcast platform is, it'll take you there. If you're watching this, please subscribe on YouTube. That would also be a huge help to us. It'll help us get to our 1,000 subscriber goal.
Yes. Thank you. That's right. Good job. Good job on that. Something else we need to let people know is that, we're not just sitting back and letting technology just move in front of us and run past us. I mean, we are constantly looking for platforms for us to be able to get into your world, to get into your ears, to get into your eyes, man. We want you to see us and hear us and everything. So we're going to give you that platform to be able to choose and whatever works for you, whether you're driving or just sitting in your house on your phone or whatever.
Jay's talking in code. There's something we're looking into here. We became aware of earlier this week, and we'll talk about that soon. Probably not today, but it is kind of exciting.
Yes.
Okay. So back into the news here, Jay. So we've talked about a lot of stuff today.
Yes.
You had mentioned something to me a little bit ago. Before this topic of EVs fades off the forefront of our minds here, and I've seen this, but you know more about it than I do. So Ford's got some interest in an electric truck. I don't want to steal your. So
So it's Rivian,
which I was saying it wrong. So so there's
is that what it is? Rivian?
I'm taking your word for it here.
It's Rivian. I would assume that it's Rivian. I mean, it sounds a little bit more catchier than Rivian or
Well, that's how little attention I was paying.
Or Rivian.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rivian.
Yep.
That's how I would say it. So Ford I guess has invested like $500 million.
I did see that amount.
Into this, and what I found even more interesting, I did not realize this, is that Amazon had gone after GM to partner up with them to do the same thing. However, GM backed off and backed out of it.
Well, now this is trucks, right? Electric trucks.
Electric trucks, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's what Rivian is. What they have what do they call the RIT, which is the truck, and then you've got the RIS, which is the SUV.
Okay.
That's what they have, which is their own badge. I mean, the whole intention of Rivian is to gain support and partner up with a Ford or a GM or other automakers.
Interesting that we started this news segment talking about Ford way back buying Lincoln from bankruptcy, and then that led into Apple buying companies, and so here we are right back to that strategy.
We're doing the same thing exactly. But what Rivian's whole intention is to gain that financial support so that they can continue on with their development. I mean, their goal is to release, I think, 5 or 6 of their own models under their own badge. But what a lot of people don't, maybe I'm sure you knew this, but Rivian, I mean, I guess their parent company was, they are a developer of long-lasting batteries.
I think I did know that.
Yeah,
on some level.
But they're extremely large.
I'm going to pretend I did.
Yeah, they're extremely large. So, I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of what all the other EV manufacturers have been trying to do, which is to downsize the battery and get more out of it. But Rivian they're 80% larger than what the average battery is. But they're getting 400-mile range out of that.
That's really good.
Yeah, that one prototype that they're doing right now.
Best in class so far.
So, and to give it further, credibility, Ford better credibility, and to understand what their mindset is, and let's keep talking about Ford here, is the Ford Automotive, their Ford Automotive president. His name is I think Joe Hendricks. Yeah. He has actually joined the board of directors at Rivian.
That goes on. Like Steve Jobs, he brought Next into Apple. He owned Next. Then he went back to Apple. Next became OS X. These guys are often making moves like this at a partner level, where they put people on the board that are kind of symbiotic. They're good compatible products that work well together.
Absolutely, and obviously some oversight as well. And if you're going to invest that kind of money in, you want to have in-depth knowledge of what's going on. That's expected in any transaction.
Well, and look, I've said it before. This is a belief of mine. So again, if me offering some sort of like theory or belief is new to you, welcome to the podcast.
Right. So
the battery technology is not the end of the so. Electric powered vehicles are kind of where we're going, but this current generation is I really don't think batteries are going to be the power source in the next 5 to 10 years. I think it's going to be something else, like maybe hydrogen.
Yeah, and yes, I think so as well.
It's the same principles of electric motors and all that, just probably a different power source.
What's interesting about our particular podcast today, and we're going to talk briefly about generators, power generation. I mean that is obviously an electric vehicle needs some sort of power generation. Yeah. So and look, again, we didn't just like pick this topic because we're fans of it, or EVs are not going away.
Yeah, so you got GM investing, like we've talked about in previous podcasts. They're converting plants to accommodate this. You've got Ford dumping money into this company, the Rivian,
it'll be a
truck company, battery company.
Whole different landscape in the year 2025. I mean, we'll look back on this podcast going, "Wow, I can't believe this." You got companies
doing supercars and hypercars.
Yep, it's funny you say that. Okay, I told you about this earlier before we came on air about there is a Chinese electric sports car, Qiantu. It's spelled Qiantu. It's the Qiantu K50. Is going to be produced in a plant here in the U.S. in Spokane, Washington. That just came about on the news yesterday. It's actually a really nice looking vehicle. But here's the interesting thing, and again, these price points are going to be a big kicker for most people, and this is probably, it's definitely, I'm not sure I would go there. Let's just see where I'm at in 5 years, but
yeah,
the U.S. version of this particular car is expected to be priced at around $149,000. Yeah.
That's something else that they're doing to the playing field of, in the old days. Well, I mean, if you just look at like Ferrari or Lamborghini, I mean, 5-10 years ago, you couldn't really touch one of those cars for under 150 new, right?
Right.
And I know that like there's a Ferrari California, or there's a couple lower end Ferraris, if you will, that are a little bit less out of reach. But they are getting to the point now where companies like this are doing supercars, and if they're 150 or less, you've got a whole bunch more audience that might be able to touch that are going to have access, which then forces companies like Ferrari and Lamborghini and some of the other high. Now Bugatti, like they're just going to be ridiculous, whatever, forever, right? Because that's just the top of the top of the top. But what's Ferrari? That's going to take some market share away from Ferrari.
Oh,
possibly.
For sure. I mean, possibly, yeah. I mean, this thing, you've driven the Tesla, and one of the things that you found most impressive about it is its ability to set you back in the seat.
Oh.
It's the perkiness. I mean, in this particular vehicle, it says it has a twin electric motor drawing power from a lithium-ion battery pack. The K50 can punch out 430 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque. Unbelievable. Enough to launch it from 0 to 60 seconds in 0 to 60 miles an hour in 4.3 seconds.
So I got to tell you this. Now you know this part. I've got some motorcycles.
Yep.
And I've ridden motorcycles for a long time. And I try to not drive like a jerk, but I will tell you that there are times when if I end up at a traffic light at an intersection and there's two lanes and we're sitting side by side and there's a car next to me, and I'm like, maybe he's driving like grandpa or he's a little slow or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to, make sure the intersection's clear and just punch it and take off. And there isn't any vehicle. Now, if it's another bike, first of all, you don't ever do that because then the race is on and now it's, two guys just being insane trying to,
Right.
it's a testosterone frenzy.
Right.
But any four-wheeled vehicle that is sitting next to me at an intersection at a traffic light, I don't even think twice. Like, I got you. There isn't anything you can do in that Corvette to keep up with me. Sorry.
Right.
It's just,
right.
It just isn't going to happen. Since the introduction of EVs, I have often thought twice about if I end up sitting next to a Tesla. I'm not so sure I got this guy,
Give it a shot. Yeah,
I actually kind of want to do that, like on a drag strip. Like I just want to see if I can take him.
Oh, okay. Tell you what. Here's what we'll do. I'm going to come visit you. We're going to do an on-location test. I'll drive the Tesla. You ride the bike, and we're going to drag.
Okay.
There's a challenge. Let's try it. I mean, what's on? We'll put a little wager on it. I mean, between us, a little personal wager.
Yeah, sure. And the amount of weight disadvantage that four-wheeled EV has over me, that's coming in somewhere between probably 300 and 400 pounds with making like 200 horse, like 150, 200 horsepower, depends on the bike, 1,000 cc's. I mean, and still that car will, it's
right.
It's surprising,
Yeah, that blows me away. So as we speak, and probably will have taken place by the time this airs, the International Auto Show is going on in New York.
Yep.
And they are said to have over 40 EV vehicles on display this year.
I'd say it figures. To our point, it's not going away. Yeah.
Again, and for those that are not innovating, the automakers that are not doing this, and I'm going to go back to my old saying, there's going to be somebody just waiting in the bushes to take it over. So
yeah.
If you're not in the bushes already, you better go, mark your spot, because you just need to just be prepared.
The visual image that I just got out of that, I'm not sure is what you intended. Marking spots in bushes and all that, but I digress. All right, so I've got one more. Now this is near and dear to my heart. This is going to transition into probably a personal story, which then will hopefully transition into our generators topic. But this just happened this week. This particular, this is from the AP, the Associated Press. Parking enforcement chalk marks ruled unconstitutional. Now, you know how this works, right? They got the long stick with the chalk on the end, and they would come by and they would.
I have a few marks on my tires now. So,
okay, so I'm going to get in the opinion corner here for just a minute.
Okay.
Can you see me over here in the opinion corner?
I see you in the opinion corner.
Am I still on camera? All right.
Yes.
I'm in my opinion corner.
And for those of you that can't see the opinion corner or have trouble trying to locate it, he's going to have a little something up here that'll, that'll be he'll point it out to you. The opinion corner, PCG opinion corner.
This is going to be heavily opinionated. I don't think I'm too far off base, and I would venture to guess that most of our listeners are probably going to agree with this, but it is an opinion, all right? So first of all, don't touch my car. Like, that's just me. Like, just keep your hands off my car. When I'm out, and we're all car fans, and I'm out here with my son, and we go someplace, and we go to a car show, and he understands the rule, man. Look, but don't touch. Don't ever walk up and put your hands on somebody else's car. Now, he's had some cool people at shows that, like, they've won their class, and the guy will go, hey, you want to sit in it? Well, that's an invitation. That's different. But you see a cool car sitting on the street, you just don't ever just walk up. You just don't, man. That's somebody else's property. Okay.
Right. That's right.
And I have to go along with that, I have Keith's fourth rule of Bozo Magnetism, which
I love it, man. Bozo. That's a new. I love it, man. Bozo Magnetism.
This is
gotcha.
Keith's fourth rule of Bozo Magnetism. Rules 1 through 3 will come up on a later podcast, but you can park anywhere in a parking lot and go in the store, and by the time you come out, there will be cars around you.
Yes.
And usually, I've got like a 39-foot RV. I will go to the grocery store before we go out on a trip. I'll park at the end of the lot, mostly so that I can get out of there without being pinched in between other vehicles. And it never fails, Jay. It never fails. I come out, I'm just gonna park next to this guy right here. It looks safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here first on PartsCounterGuru.com. The analogy and the definition of bozo magnetism.
If you don't believe me, do it. And the other side of that is sometimes I just like to walk. Walking is healthy. I'll park at the end of the lot. I've had nice cars. Now, I'm not the jerk that goes and double parks near the front of the store. Okay.
Right.
I'll go park it at the end of the lot because I realize that's not everybody has to live by sort of my car rules. So I'll just go. This is sort of a life philosophy for me, man. I just want to be left alone. Like just let me have my toys, and I'm just going to take them down here and park them at the end of the lot out of everybody's way.
No, I approve.
Try it.
I approve.
You will find that when you come back out of that store, I guarantee you, if you're in there for more than 10 minutes, there's going to be somebody parked next to you.
Yeah.
I've
had it happen. I've had it happen to me. And the first thing, I don't know what the first thing out of your mouth is, but I know what it is. It's like, I think I always say, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, it's to the point now where I'll just go, well, that just about figures.
Yeah.
So parking enforcement chalk marks ruled unconstitutional again out of the AP. This happened in Detroit, and basically this lady sued the city
Taylor,
of Saginaw.
Yeah, Taylor versus city of Saginaw.
Yeah. The city marked tires of chalk to keep how. For those of you that don't know, they're tracking how long you're parked there. So there's like 2-hour parking, and they're checking to see if they can see the chalk, you haven't moved the car and all that, right? Well, okay.
That's right.
So first of all, my opinion is this whole charging people for parking on streets that are paid for by taxpayers is just a money scheme, and it's punishing taxpayers who have already paid once to pay again. These meter maids and this. There's a special place in hell for you meter maids, man. I'm telling you right now.
Well, that's a whole other podcast talking about event parking and all that sort of stuff. We should bring that up.
I was in the city of. I'm not going to get this. It's on the other side of San Francisco. It's just north of Oakland, something Creek. It's a really nice community. And I literally looked out the window. I was in a restaurant, and I looked out the window, and I saw a parking enforcement stepping off to see whether I was 18 inches. My tires were 18 inches from the curb or not, and wrote me a ticket because they were a little bit over 18 inches. Why? How is this endangering anyone?
It's not.
Here, this is the part I was talking about. I'm going to end up jumping on the chair. Okay.
It's a revenue. It's about revenue, man.
Monetizing the law enforcement for revenue purposes is ridiculous. You're keeping them from actually doing their job of working crimes. Okay,
right. Now, serving the community.
Yeah. Now I need to take a step back here and say, this is again opinion time. Back over in the corner over here. Okay.
It's
law enforcement. This is not in no way am I calling out law enforcement and do I have a negative opinion of them. I believe that they are underpaid. These people are risking their lives usually every time they go to work. Unfortunately, because they are not paid what they should be in most cases from the FBI all the way down, you get people attracted to the position that maybe shouldn't be, and they're drawn there for other reasons, like they like the power. Right. And that gets kind of weird, and you get some of these examples of bad cops that we've all seen on YouTube. But in general, these people are they're trying to help, and I mean them no disrespect. I do sort of have a problem with the ones that are drawn to the job for the wrong reasons.
To the power trip, yeah.
And so anyway, back to this. So the purpose of marking tires was to raise revenue, not to protect the public against a safety risk. The 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeal said that is exactly the issue that I have with this. If you are monetizing the police force, shame on you. That needs to be there needs to be laws against that. Like, that needs to be a criminal act. Monetizing, using the police force as a source of revenue. That to me is inexcusable. Okay.
It is.
Before I get too worked up here, the city does not demonstrate in law or logic that the need to deter drivers from exceeding the time permitted for parking before they have even done so is sufficient to justify what they consider to be a warrantless search, which is they're marking the chalk, they're touching the car, right?
Touching the car, right? Yep.
And so now this particular decision is not just for Michigan. This affects me. So I live in Tennessee. The decision sets a new standard for Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee, the state covered by the Sixth Circuit Court. So whoever this attorney is and whoever this judge is, you are heroes. You are heroes. Yep. Thank you very much. You have just done us all a great service, and you deserve like a round on the house for the work. You're doing the Lord's work here.
It was deemed a violation of the Fourth Amendment, basically, is what it was. You know, what was it? It kind of, they went back and looked at, this Anthony Scalia, the Supreme Court justice in 2012. It had to do with the drug dealers and how you couldn't put a GPS device on a drug dealer's car without a warrant, and so it really is a Fourth Amendment violation. So they have to walk that fine line,
right?
For me, it's tire chalking, for crying out loud.
Well,
man.
I think it comes down to the big picture here, right? Which is, okay, so why are you doing this? Now, this drug dealer case, that's interesting because, okay, we've got something nefarious going on there, right? Like there's some bad, like, can we all agree that, drug cartels are kind of bad, right? Is that right? Too opinionated for this podcast?
No, not at all.
Okay. So you could make the case to me because of the big picture that I'm trying to stop the sale of heroin or opiates or whatever, and I think that I'm tracking a drug dealer back to his cartel headquarters or whatever. I would be a little bit more inclined to go with that than I would be the chalk marks because of the big picture here. Now, we're a nation of laws, and you can't. The big picture is a factor, but you can't use that as your justification for whatever legal activity you're gonna. Okay, but still, big picture being, hey, we're trying to take down a drug dealer here. Okay, well, you're putting chalk marks on my tire. What's the big picture? City Hall gets another $25 check for a parking violation. Right. How is that in any way benefiting the tax? Balance your budget, man, and then we don't have to deal with all this.
Or preferred tow company that has a contract with the city.
Yeah, right. It just gets more. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you grease my hand, I'll grease your hand. Yeah, it is a money making, and all it is a scheme. That's all it is.
So, common sense and big picture. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So
yeah.
So along those lines, and this, by the way, is just another reason to have a dash cam because, you've got the Sentry mode feature in a lot of them now, and it's your word versus theirs. Record it, Right. If somebody's doing something to your vehicle without your permission and it causes damage, you have the documented proof.
That's right.
Don't be a jerk about it, but proof is not ever a bad thing to have.
No.
People have doorbell cameras for the same reason now, right?
That's right. Right. We live in a time where these things are necessary.
So, personal story here. I got pulled over a couple weeks ago. I know you know about this because I called you. And usually when I call you with something like this, the conversation starts with this word. Dude, you're not going to believe this.
or man, I'm so excited I have to tell you about this, or that.
Yeah.
But when it's the dude, you're not going to believe this. I know that we've got something working, man. Yeah.
So I had a dash cam. I had just done a video on dash cams on our YouTube channel.
Yep.
And I was close to my house. There's a 2-lane road, and look, we've all done this. And the left turn lane at this traffic light, it's really short. It's like 3 cars long. And I did this deal where it's a 2-lane road, and I jumped into the left turn lane before the lane actually started. And now look, like, again, nothing against law enforcement here. I technically did something. I broke the rules. And I deserved it. If he was going to ticket me for that, I broke the rules.
Right.
Fair enough. Okay. I made that calculated decision to jump into the lane early. I knew what I was doing. I took the chance. Big picture, didn't see the problem, right? Nobody coming, got in the lane. We've all done it. Whatever, right?
Well, yeah.
Now, I've got this video, and I thought long and hard about posting this video, but I've decided not to, and here's why. Because this officer did, it was actually a sheriff's deputy. He walked right up to the line a couple times of doing some questionable things, but he never crossed the line. And the minute that I put this video out there, it's going to be real easy to tell who he is. It's going to be real easy to tell who he works for. And I'm not doing that to somebody. I'm not putting his info out there and making him a target.
If he's not in violation, it's not policy or any rights.
He doesn't deserve that. I can't control who sees the video and what they choose to do about it. I just thought better of it. Okay, so here's what happened.
And real quick, let me add this in. You're not one of those people out there that are doing this for the sole purpose of baiting them into it either.
Nope.
Because that happens.
Yep.
That happens.
That's
and
another reason
does.
why I decided not to post the video. Because
and you shouldn't. And you did the right thing. You made the right decision.
So I jump into the left turn lane. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that the rest of this conversation is going to be around the topic of common sense and the big picture. Because that's how I operate. All right. He's in an unmarked sheriff's car. Now, why the sheriff needs an unmarked car, again, goes back to, what are you doing here? Are you writing traffic tickets as a county sheriff?
He's chalking tires.
Whatever, man.
He's incognito, yeah.
So the minute that I go by him, he's sitting in the straight ahead right turn lane, which I was not. I'm trying to go left, and he's in that long line. He lights it up. And I went, all right. And I've got my son with me, and I went, we're about to, get pulled over. So I pull into the left turn lane, and I stop, and I put my signal on. Now, I can't go. I'm sitting at a red light, and I become immediately mindful. I'm responsible in some way for his safety and mine. I'm not going to put him into a situation where I pull off somewhere that's dangerous for him. And I'm thinking about that. Well, he pulls up behind me and gets out of his car at the intersection and walks up to my window, and he goes, where are you gonna pull? He goes, what are you trying to do? Or where are you trying to go? And I said, I'm just trying to go somewhere where you don't have to do what you're doing right now, which is stand out of your vehicle in the middle of an intersection and try to talk to me. And he goes, fine. Right. He goes, I want you to just cut across this right lane of traffic. So basically what he told me to do was to cut across 2 lanes of traffic.
But wait, that's a traffic violation,
he can
right?
do that.
But it's okay if
right.
Okay, yeah. I understand now. Yeah.
Now we're not looking at the picture of, safety here. Now we're just trying to write a ticket. Okay.
Yeah,
So he literally looks at the lady sitting next to me, stopped, and he goes, let him cut in front of you. And I go over, 2 lanes once the light changes, and now it's rush hour, and they're pissed because, we got this guy writing traffic tickets. Yeah. So
yelling a few
over,
explicitives.
Yeah, I go down, pretty far, and I'm in my FJ, so I just pull completely off the road onto the grass.
That's funny.
And he walks up to the window, and he does this number. He goes, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Okay, that's a game. And I've have police officer friends. I've done enough ride-alongs. The first thing that happens when you answer that question is he goes back, and if you get a ticket and you go to court and you fight it, he pulls out his notepad and he goes, Your Honor, I pulled on such and such date, I observed such and such of this violation, and then I walked up to his window and I asked him why I pulled it, and he said to me, and then he just regurgitates what you told him. Right. So you've incriminated yourself, okay? It is your constitutional right to not do that. Now, I'm not trying to be difficult here, but he has to tell you why he's pulling you over. No game. I don't like games.
Well, I have an answer for that. Anytime I've ever been asked that, my answer is this, and it's not being a smart aleck or looking for a rise out of anyone, but it is very logical answer is I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of followed that logic because I'm convinced, Jay. So I didn't get a ticket, and I'm convinced it's for one of two reasons. Either he saw that camera and decided he wasn't going to mess with it, or it was just my behavior, which was respectful. I had my hand crossed on the steering wheel with my driver's license in my hand when he walked up to the window. My whole motivation from that point forward was just to cooperate and just be polite, right?
Well,
be respectful.
9 times out of 10, there is no reason not to cooperate.
Yeah. So
unless you're being violated, but be very careful when you do that.
So right. And so when he did that, immediately a flag went up and I went, we're stepping into something we shouldn't be. And I just went, I'd rather you tell me. And he said, well, I'll tell you, but you tell me first. So now it's like I'm in a car dealership trying to negotiate, and whoever mentions price first loses.
What the? Yeah.
So first thing that came to mind, I just sort of chuckled, and I went, wait, aren't you supposed to tell me that? And he went, all right. And he told me, he said, well, you got into that turn, you got into the middle lane there before you were supposed to, and it wasn't safe, and you've got a boy in here, and what would his mother think, and and all, and he said, why did you do it? And I looked at him and I just went, I'm not going to give you an excuse. Like, you don't deserve to hear an excuse from me. Like, I'm not arguing about this.
Yeah,
like,
what's
I did it.
What's
you
the
saw
point?
me do it.
Right.
Why? I'm not just going to, like, what good does it do for me to give you some excuse?
Right.
Write the ticket. I
doesn't.
Did it. So, so he just sort of went from that point. He just went, all right, look, don't do it again. And I went, you're right. Okay. And he
makes you go across traffic.
Yeah, so we're not done yet. So then he goes, now, you were trying to go that way? Because you got to remember, I started in an intersection. I was trying to turn left. Mm-hmm. He pulled up behind me and made me go across 2 lanes to the right and pull off. So now I've got to do a U-turn and go back the way I was trying to go. So he goes, you're trying to go that way? And I went, yeah. And he goes, okay, I'll stop traffic for you. Now, this is on a 55 mile an hour 2-lane road. He walks out in the middle of he's got his lights on. He walks out in the middle of the road and he literally goes, it's safe, go ahead. And I whip a U-turn in the middle of the road, which with his permission, I guess is okay, and go back the way I was going. So if your intent is traffic safe, because this is always where they go with this stuff, is you go, well, why do you have an extra 10 cops out writing speeding tickets today? And the police go, safety. And they always go there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you put an extra 10 out today and it's at the end of the month, doesn't maybe have to do with revenue generation? Okay. If the purpose of you pulling me over was because I committed an unsafe act, why then did you just have me commit 2 more under your direction, which I now have a recording of, which would have showed up in court?
Right.
Because he was going to make that case. He was going to make the case that I did something unsafe, and I was going to go, well, here's a video of him telling me to do 2 more unsafe things. So what are we talking about here?
Right. That would have been an interesting conversation that you may have had with a judge on that. That would have been interesting, yeah.
Because again, the big picture is, if it's a safety issue, I get it, and you're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're just writing tickets for revenue, now we got a problem. And
That's
and
right.
the playing the games of, do you know why I pulled you over, just exacerbates the situation. So, but I am thoroughly convinced that either having that dash cam or just behavior kept me from getting a severe consequence, or any consequence really, other than him just sort of doing what he did. So, I'll put the dash cam that I have, which records in both directions, and that's exactly why I got that one. Mm-hmm. We'll put that on our mentioned on the podcast link. Again, it's already up there a couple times, but for under this episode,
put it again. Yeah. Why not? Just have it. Yeah, have it in
because
there so people have a easy way to click on it. And get
I'm telling you, like, you could show up with your iPad and have that video loaded on it at your traffic court, and the judge might. Why not? It's evidence. They're recording you from his car.
Right. Hey, if you want to see some sort of stat coexist with one another when it comes to the law enforcement, I would like to know, and maybe we'll find this out and post it, but towards the end of the month, how much revenue.
Yeah.
Let's look at how much revenue towards the end of the month versus the middle of the month.
Yep.
Is probably the same way as if donut shops, when they turn their fresh hot signs on, how many show up? Same stat. Increases when that sign
now
goes
look,
up. There's no coincidence, folks.
Speaking of donuts, don't be disrespectful to law enforcement, please. I'm not encouraging that.
No.
These guys have a difficult enough and a dangerous enough job already as it is. They're already underpaid. Don't make the situation worse by being a smart mouth to them. Just don't. Okay.
Yep.
Be polite, but educate yourself. Protect yourself. Just common sense, right? Like not everybody's on the level.
That's right.
He's probably done that 30 times already that day, and he was trying to entertain himself. I don't know, but just protect yourself, right?
Yep, that's it. Yeah, I've been pulled over in the past, and unfortunately, I didn't have a dash cam or any leg to stand on, and knew that I wasn't breaking the law. No way, shape, or form. But what do? It's his word against mine, and I didn't need it to go on my insurance, so I took the class and passed it and paid my $50, and now they're, they've got 50 of my dollars helping pay for a case of chalk.
Yeah.
So
yes,
to make more dollars.
I actually had a guy once, was a police officer friend of mine. I got a ticket for speeding in an area. I had an 86 4Runner. Now, this was in the late 90s, so it was an older vehicle, it was a 4-cylinder. It was one of the original 4Runners, had the manual locking hubs on the front wheels, had the Back to the Future front end. Remember that? You remember the vehicle?
I do, yes.
Okay. But it was a 4-cylinder. It had 200,000 miles on it, and he said I was doing like 55 and a 35 or 55 and a 40 or something like that. And I from a stoplight going up a hill, and I called my police officer buddy, and I went, dude, I went back and I tried that later. My truck it wouldn't do it. It's just incapable of accelerating to that speed going up that hill. Like, I had it floored and I couldn't get it. I couldn't do it. And he goes, well, you can't tell him that in court, because now you're going to admit that you tried to speed. And he's like, just pay it and just be done with it. And I'm like, but there is no physical way that I was doing what it's impossible for this vehicle to do what he said I was doing. And he went, but there's no way for you to realistically prove that without committing some further act of intentional violation. So he's like, just let it go. Just pay the ticket.
Yeah. Have you ever been asked this? Why were you going so fast? Have you ever had that? You want to tell me why you were traveling so fast? You in a hurry to go somewhere?
Yeah, I think maybe. And usually my response is somewhere along the lines of, I'm not here to offer you excuses.
Right. Well, I actually had an experience one early morning on the way to the airport. I was heading out to a trade show, and I was running late, and I was speeding. He got me red-handed, but then it was funny. He kept going to the back of the car and coming back up to the passenger side window, by the way.
Yeah.
And talking across. My wife was in the passenger seat, and talking across her, talking to me, and he was wanting to be, tough guy. And I'm out here on task force, and we're just trying to save your lives, and I clocked you at such and such, man. I have my rear radar on, caught you. Where are you going so fast? Why are you in such a hurry?
Well, your wife told me that if I didn't get out of the house before you got home, there might be trouble.
Oh, yeah.
No, probably not a good idea to go there, right?
No. But I didn't lie to the guy. I said, I'm on my way to the airport, man. I'm about to miss a flight, and if you could get this ticket written, I'd be glad to get going even quicker. I did. I said that to him. I said, can you hurry up and do this, because I'm late as I speak. I'll do the speed limit going, but I need to at least get there.
Yeah. So. I do know guys that have done this. Now, I wouldn't do this, but they go ticket or lecture, not both.
Right. Well, look, I would not have been. That's a good one. I would not have gone there with my attitude had he not done that to me to make me feel about that tall in front of my wife.
Yeah.
You don't humiliate someone in front of their spouse.
Dash cam.
Absolutely. And I didn't have a dash cam, so I couldn't prove anything. But I paid the $50 and took the online course again. And bought more chalk.
All right. Yep. So let's transition this away from something so blood pressure inducing.
Why are we here today?
Yeah.
Keith?
So we're going to talk a little bit about generators, but power generation and emergency power, I think, are really the two key. Yeah. Like, of all generators sold, those are probably the two prevailing reasons for the sale, or the majority of the sales, right?
Right. On a commercial level, when you go, when you walk into a large box home improvement store, we'll say them, Lowe's, Home Depot, whomever,
yeah, sure,
and
whatever.
They're all selling them. They're catering to the people that live in hurricane-prone zones and
sure,
tornado alleys and stuff like that. People who have to encounter and endure natural disasters and stuff. So anyway.
Well, and so I use them for, that, but also I do a lot of camping, and so there's that, and
that's a convenience thing for you.
We lose power here from time to time due to various things, storms, or just electrical issues on the line or whatever, and it's you got to have Facebook, right?
That's no, man. You got to have the ability to get onto YouTube and subscribe to the
there you go,
Parts Counter Gurus podcast on YouTube, on the YouTube channel there.
So if you haven't done that, go ahead and pause, take the time to do that now, and then come back,
please.
So we're gonna put some of these generators. I know you've got a list, and I've got a list, and some of them I have used and recommend. Let's talk about the different kinds of generators.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
So, first of all, you've got your gasoline powered, either gas or diesel, right?
Right.
Fuel, some sort of like liquid fuel powered.
I ran down a list, and before you get any further on that, what I found interesting is some of the types of fuels that are actually being used. Now, a couple of them I knew about.
Yeah.
But there's gasoline.
Yep.
The two most popular are gasoline and diesel power.
Yeah.
That's it.
Cummins makes a good percentage of those, especially in RVs.
Absolutely. And you've got biodiesel. Now, we can have a whole topic on this, or, some sort of biofuel, if you will. I had a customer contact me wanting a valve and a valve seat insert that would survive on palm oil. Yeah. They were using this, but it was so acidic that it was eating these things are, some of the valve materials that we were using were cobalt-based alloys that can survive the high heat and corrosive environments.
Right.
But these things were, this thing was eating right through and guttering the valve face and everything. But anyway, emulsified diesel, which obviously is, watered down diesel fuel.
Yeah.
Obviously propane, natural gas, and those sorts of things. And then I was really surprised. I didn't realize this, and maybe we can touch on it, and you can touch on it a little bit more. But what about the hydrogen generators?
Yeah, those are out there. And so we're again generators, right? Generating power, right?
Correct. Yep.
So we got a lot of battery. They call them generators now. They're portable power supplies.
Portable power.
I've got one. It was marketed as a solar power generator.
Yeah.
But it's a battery source. And you just touched on this with the propane or the LP, but there's been a trend over the past year and a half now. They're dual fuel. So a lot of the portable generators they'll claim to be dual fuel. Champion's one of the higher rated brands that is making them, and it'll be propane or gas.
Right.
If you do the math on the cost per tank, or the cost per hour of runtime, propane is way more expensive than gasoline. But the advantage that
cleaner burning, but
but the advantage that you have with propane that I can think of is, well, two, I guess. First of all, if you run out of gas, you have a propane grill, but also the storage time frame. If you can't really store gasoline as long as you can store propane.
That's correct.
It degrades more quickly.
Yeah. It absolutely has a longer shelf life, if you will.
You got to run these generators regularly, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But so Let's just start like kind of small to big. So if you're going to use, so depending on what you're going to use it for, again, emergency power is kind of a big one. That's the one that I tend to as I was thinking about this, to focus on. We've got these battery powered devices. Now I've got 2 or 3 of these. I've actually got one in the back of my FJ that powers a fridge, like an off-road cooler. Yeah. Freezer fridge. And it's cool for like groceries or camping and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And when the engine's running, the alternator provides power and that charges that battery bank. But when I turn off the key, I don't want to run down my starting battery. So I have I have and have used for quite a few years the Goal Zero line. They make Yeti is the line of what they call solar generators. You can charge them by plugging into AC power. They sell you solar panels. You can charge them, or you can charge them off your alternator. They're out of Utah. They're a really good company. They're sort of focused on the outdoorsy types, which is a good fit for me. And they have fantastic customer service, and it's a really good product. So I use them a lot. So I've got a smaller one that I run, like just that kind of stuff. But if I needed to in a pinch, I could, power some phones or tablets or computer or whatever off of it.
Now, with your background in information technology, and of course, I spent a lot of time working in an office environment where
this is I'm not a doctor, but I play one on like by association. Exactly. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Exactly, and I bring this up because right. A lot of times power generation doesn't come with a big bulky body with a motor on it and an engine on it and and just big bright orange thing and exhaust and all this stuff. They can come in very small.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Sizes and stuff, and so power generation is not just for what you might think in a disastrous type situation. So for business, the biggest disaster that you could have is not being able to conduct business. Yeah. And we had backup power. Yeah. Battery backups, which you call them UPSs.
Uninterruptible power supply. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're talking same thing, but different form, or the way the extra power in an emergency situation is delivered to the equipment.
So it really depends on what you're trying to do with it and how long you need to do that. So, the biggest issue you have with the battery powered generators is you deplete that battery. Now, how do you recharge it, right? If you run out of gas in your gas powered generator, you can, if you have like lawnmower gas, you can just go dump it in your generator and start it back up, right? Right. Well, you've got a solar panel that'll take you a good, afternoon to recharge the battery. It could take all day. Or from another generator. But if it's just emergency power and at most you need it for an hour to maybe do some cooking or whatever, make some coffee, they would get the job done. I like them exactly for those kinds of things, right? Like if we're camping somewhere out in a national park and we can't run a generator because there's noise rules, I'll run one of those because they make no noise, and we'll charge up our stuff. We'll charge up our phones so that when we go driving through the park the next day, we can use the maps or whatever, right? So it just depends on what you're trying to use it for. But I do like the Goal Zeros. Now, I do have solar panels for them, so I can recharge them like in said national parks and all that. This is something that I've had for a while in terms of emergency preparedness, and this is it's a form of generating power. We've all seen these. These are battery packs. And what I like to do, this one has 2 USB ports on it, and that's a pretty heavy one, but go get one of these. Like, they run $50 or less. The bigger they are, the more recharges you can do on like an iPad or a phone before they're dead. Some of them it'll get you a half charge on your phone, and they're about this big, size of a lipstick tube. But put this in your car, plug it into one of the USB power ports or the cigarette lighter in your car, leave it plugged in. And if you're ever in a situation where your phone's dead and you drove 10 minutes and it wasn't enough to charge up your phone, take this out of your car, plug your phone into it, and go, and now you've got power for your phone.
There you go. Very good tip. And one thing, if you do have one of those and you travel a lot and you have to get on an aircraft, you just need to make sure that you know what the regulations are.
Yeah.
Whether you're supposed to keep it in your carry-on or whether you keep it, in stowage, whatever.
Yeah.
Just understand that you could get it confiscated and never see it again. So just be aware before you go to the airport, because those laws change all the time.
They do. In most cases, it's treated the same as a laptop battery. In most cases. Or an iPad battery, because it's the same. But you need to know. And sometimes they have size restrictions and all that. Yeah,
that's right.
All right. So moving up from that, we've got we're still in portable generators, but you've got and there's a couple of these on the list. You've got the
stationary.
Well, you can carry them around, but they weigh 50, 60 pounds, up to some of them being on wheels weigh 150 pounds. Oh, you roll them around. Yeah. They're portable. Most of them are gasoline or diesel. And they'll run, some of them will run 8-10 hours on a tank of fuel. And they'll generate enough power to run a refrigerator and an air conditioner and a television. Now, so let's, if you're okay with this, let's talk a little bit about expanding or elaborating on what you want to use it for and figuring out what size generator you need based on your intended use. Okay.
Good point. Very good point. My understanding is that you need to identify what the usage is, what you're going to, what do you need to power?
Yeah.
And then when you know what that is, you need to add about 20% more just to have that extra backup. Yeah. So that you're not completely depleting your power source.
That's right.
For me to say.
Yeah, right.
So that's pretty much it, is understanding what the usage is for and what you're trying to achieve. And just be prepared. Right. Yeah.
So now how do we get to that? How do we get to the part where we figure out what the power requirements are? And I've got a chart here that I'm going to pull up too. But so Jay, let's say I'm you. And I live in the Pacific Northwest, and maybe my goal for having one of these is emergency power, right? You get some storms, you got some high winds earlier in the year, knocked power out, knocked some poles down, knocked a lot of trees down. Yeah, maybe some earthquakes, sure.
Tsunami.
Yeah, okay, well, we can stop,
all three, no, well, I mean, I'm in an area where all three of those things can actually occur.
Sure,
so.
Yeah, okay. So let's say you're going the route of emergency power, and you may need to run this thing for 3 days or a week, And let's take it a step further, and let's say okay, well, my primary goals are I need to keep my food, so I need to keep my refrigerator, I need to keep my food fresh, and maybe like radios or phones, or maybe television. Like I just need to be able to power up some sort of communications devices. Okay. But how do I figure out, like, I don't know how much my refrigerator takes. Well, okay. So there's two things, and I'm going to help you through this. You want to get to, most of these generators are going to do it in watts. Now, if you look on, there's usually a sticker on the back of whatever device you're trying to connect, if it's AC power. And AC being the power, alternating current that's in your house that is on the wall. And it will say usually what the draw is. It's usually close to where that power cord goes into the device, right? So like if it's a refrigerator, it should say on the back. Now, if you can't find it on your fridge or your television, or it's not there and you can't figure it out and it's not in the manual, I have a watt meter, and we'll put a link. You can buy these on Amazon. Basically, how this device works is it's a little plug. You plug your fridge into it, or whatever device you're trying to measure, and then you plug that into the wall. So it goes from the wall. It goes wall, watt meter, device.
Right.
And you turn your fridge on, or you plug it in, and the watt meter will show you what it's drawing. Okay. Yeah. And now you know when it's running and the compressor's running and it's on full draw. It's whatever. It's 1,500 watts or whatever it is, okay? So then you take those devices and you add all those watts up, and like you said, Jay, you want to throw in about an extra 20% minimum.
That's it.
And then that's what size generator you need to buy.
Exactly.
And that's going to run those devices for, indefinitely, as long as you have fuel for that generator.
Right. And let me say this, that the professional in that industry that's selling the generators for your homes, those types, if you don't have the meters to check it or don't have the ability to pull the fridge out to look at the labels and understand, all this, or even want to be bothered with it, you can go to these locations and talk to a professional and tell them what you're doing, and they should be able to meet your needs.
That's
they should
right.
be able to answer those questions. So
yeah.
These people are in those positions to do that. That's just in case you can't do it yourself.
Yeah,
so.
but we want you to do it yourself and buy off of our link. But yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that if you have issues and you can't do it, because there's going to be some people out there that they're on their own and they're maybe elderly, but they need it and they can't do it. So anyway,
now,
I'm scenario guy.
That's right. Now, some of these devices that you may want to power require different power than AC power.
Right.
Okay. Some of these generators are labeled as inverters.
Mm-hmm.
And it will say, a 2200 watt inverter. Okay. Well, what does that mean? That means that it will invert AC power to DC power, meaning it will convert the power that you have. It will provide power like is on your wall in your house, AC power, and it will convert that to the type of power that you would get in an automobile, which is DC power, cigarette plug, right? So
cigarette plug, right.
USB ports, cigarette plug, like the cigarette plug, the round one. That's inverted power. If you have anything that requires that kind of power, you want something that has an inverter. And most of them do now. So it'll do both at the same time.
Right.
Okay?
That's right.
I like and have used the Yamaha generators. Honda and Yamaha are kind of close, hand in hand in terms of quality.
Yes. They seem to be the two most prevalent ones, most popular for that.
There's a reason for that, and that is because Honda and Yamaha know small engines, and they have been doing small engines for a very long time, and this is just a modified version of their small engines.
Right.
And they do it quietly, and they do a good job of it. The Yamahas have survived the longevity test a little bit better than the Hondas have, but they're both really good.
Right. You're absolutely correct with the Yamahas and the Hondas.
Now, some of them, and the Hondas and Yamahas, I know for a fact you can do this because I have two Yamaha 2200 IS generators.
Mm-hmm.
You can daisy chain them. You can connect them together. And now I've got a 4,000 watt generator, right? So I plug them together, and then I have a plug coming off that I can plug a large. So say my device requires more than the 2,200 watts that generator will produce. Say it requires 3,000.
Right.
Plug them both together. Now I've got enough. Now why would I do that and not just go buy one that's a 4,000 watt generator? Because you can't pick you can't pick the one up. That's
true.
That's 4,000. It's on wheels and it's heavy. But my two little 2,000s, I can pick those up, put them in the back of a truck, and then connect them.
Right.
They're also a little bit quieter.
Yes, which is very important, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, well, let's get into it now. You want to talk a little bit about... So these are all measured in decibel ratings.
Yep.
And I've got a chart here. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, are you gonna I love the chart that you put together, by the way. That's fantastic, and I think it's very informative for people. And should we put that chart?
Yeah, we can put it out there. Sure.
Mentioned on the podcast, the chart.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a good idea, just so understanding the decibel rating. So,
average household refrigerator runs at about 50 decibels.
And you know what? I know that to be a fact because when mine's running at nighttime and I'm trying to sleep, it bothers me.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet though.
But still, anything above 50, 50 and above for me, man, is rough.
Most of these generators that are good ones, and the really the more expensive they are, usually that translates to they run quieter. If you're gonna take it with you somewhere and there's gonna be people around you when you run it, and you don't want to be a noise nuisance, or let's just say it's the zombie apocalypse, and we know from The Walking Dead that zombies are attracted to noise. You want a quiet generator, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to try to keep it at 65 decibels or less. I camp sometimes with a couple guys that have these CPAP machines where they sleep with them on and they breathe. We'll take that. It's like my generators I think are at 62 decibels. And we'll carry them about 100 feet away from the campsite, and you just almost can't even hear them. They're that quiet when they're running.
Yeah, I was telling you, I was at a street fair and recently one of the vendors had a portable generator, one of the ones that you've actually already mentioned.
Yeah,
it was extremely low dB.
Yeah, they're awesome.
You could barely hear it.
Yeah,
but you could smell it.
Yeah,
you could smell the emissions. So that's something else we want to get into as well. So safety.
Dishwasher runs between 55 and 70 decibels. Vacuum cleaners between 60 and 85. Doorbells at about 80. And here's my personal favorite. I've got a neighbor that just is literally, he'll do this for 4 or 5 hours a day. He runs his leaf blower. Like every day. Like every day the sun's out. He's some days in the rain, sometimes after dark. He's just out there freaking blowing leaves off, just nonstop, right? Just literally 4 or 5 hours a day. That's at 110 decibels. It's pretty loud. That would be
crying baby leaf blower.
You couldn't have a conversation at that volume.
Yeah, no, you can't. There's no way possible. You just totally went over. You went past one that I felt was relevant. I didn't realize that a flushing toilet is 75 to 85.
Yeah, I did. I skipped that one on purpose.
But what's happening before the toilet flush could be even louder. Just saying.
True. Yeah, so. To each their own, right? Most of these generators will have a noise decibel rating on them. They might offer you several numbers. One of them's at peak run, which is the max load, and the other one's going to be kind of at idle. And, if you can put any kind of a load on it, you need to pay attention to the higher number. Right. So then we've got the champions, which we mentioned earlier, which are dual fuel. Those are a little bit bigger. They'll run a lot of times off propane and gas.
Right.
I have, in my last 2 or 3 RVs, had the Cummins. It's Onan is their generator line. It's a green, and
it's
those things are
Cummins.
Oh, they're amazing. They are just awesome. They're expensive.
You owned one.
Yeah, I have one now.
You did. You do. Oh wow.
I've owned several. I had a 4,000 watt on my last RV, and this one's got a 5,500, and
awesome.
It's 62, 63 decibels. I mean, it's pushing a lot of power for that,
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's not too bad.
No,
but
it's not. Nah, you get used to it. Some people it's kind of like just a diesel, truck, just tour bus
idling.
Yeah, idling. Yeah.
Like if you were, at a truck stop or rest area, and you hear just that running of those little Thermo King units.
Yep.
They're diesel units that are on the reefers.
Yep.
So
now if you get into emergency power and you're wanting to do more than just keep the fridge running and maybe, charge a cell phone and, a radio, you've got a choice here. And especially if you don't need it to be portable, if this is just for home use and you live in an area maybe like Jay where you do lose power frequently, you might want to look into what they a lot of times call this a whole house generator.
Right.
And they come in various wattages and sizes. Generac is one of the big brands. It's kind of a big box. It sits outside, kind of like the size of your air conditioner, maybe a little bit wider, not quite as tall. Most of those are gas or diesel, and they've got a pretty big tank. They'll run for a day or two. You still need to do the generator math. You need to figure out, because you can't literally run the whole house, right? You're not going to be able to run, like if you have an electric furnace, an electric water heater, and an electric air conditioner, and then a couple fridges. You're not going to be able to run all that stuff unless you just have an insanely huge generator. So you need to figure out what the wattage draw is for those devices that are, let's just say, critical. And then buy a generator based on that.
And are we talking, when you say the Generac brand, now this would not be a portable, or are we still talking portable?
I'm talking, they're stationary.
They're what they call,
looks like a chest or a trunk.
Yeah, and they call them standby generators is what they basically are. So when power goes out, and you can program these things to kind of, let's say you're away from home and you have some sensitive stuff that needs to be kept cool.
Yep.
They will be on standby when the power goes out. It's programmed, it senses it, boom, and it starts generating power, and that's true on a huge scale for like hospitals,
Yeah.
Where they have the
That's
the
what they're
standby
using. They're using
generation.
a big version of that.
And it could be, I've been in this in the engine business for a long time, and Keith is very aware of this too, because we're both familiar with a company that I was with. But there is Cummins diesels, Caterpillar's involved.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Generac being that's their main focus, and they're using big block Chevrolet engines to generate this power. The list goes on and on and on. But there's one company that you probably wouldn't even think of this as being a power generation company. But John Deere has actually is in this business, so it's a big deal. They build reliable diesel engines for that purpose. So
now, anything that you're going to hook up to a whole house scenario, where in other words, the portable ones we talked about, right? You unplug your refrigerator from the wall, and you plug it into your generator. And the generator, if it's gas powered, needs to be outside. So you got to run an extension cord because you got to let that exhaust vent, and then you just run a cord to the refrigerator in the house or whatever. But if we're talking about a standby generator or a whole house generator, that's sitting outside. Most of those come with what they call a transfer switch. Basically, what you have to do is you have to keep that power that you're generating from going back upstream into the power lines. For safety reasons, let's say the guy's working the pole and you've got a generator running, that's creating electricity that could electrocute him while he's trying to service the line and he thinks the line's dead. So you've got to have a transfer switch if you're going to have a whole house, and most of them come with that, and you get an electrician involved to wire it and all that. But that's just it's just important to mention that there's a little bit more electrical work required with something like that. Still, if that's what you need, it's a good option. And let's get into a little so maintenance on these things, right? So most of them, you've got to change the oil. You've got that as a factor. I did not know this until I really until I owned one and read the manual, but you need to run these things monthly, whether you use them or not, for 20 to 30 minutes. And most of the manufacturers will also tell you that it's not enough to just start it up and let it idle. You need to put a load on it.
Right.
You need to let it run for 5 minutes to warm up, and then you need to go plug a refrigerator into it, or you need to go plug an air conditioner into it, or you need to plug something into it that's going to put a load on that generator and make it work. And they want you to do that as a part of regular maintenance if you're not using it monthly, because it's bad for any engine to sit and not run.
That's it. You got to have the working components to go through the process of transferring heat, making contact, piston rings.
Yeah.
If for example, if you've not been running, that's the worst thing you can do is not run an engine, because you want these things to be making good contact. You want them to seal. It has a lot to do with the emissions as well.
Yeah.
Moving parts, gaskets,
lubrication,
seals,
prevention of rust,
everything. Absolutely. Yep, you got it. It's
getting rid of moisture, all that. So then along those lines, a lot of the portable ones, you've got, just like in a car, you've got to change the oil in them, but they don't do it based on miles. You can't do it based on miles, so they do it based on hours. It's an hourly
rate, yeah.
But most of these smaller ones don't come with an hour meter. Well,
that's right.
You can buy hour meters and attach to them, and I've got one that is, I'll recommend, and we'll put it in the mentioned on. So go to partscounterguru.com, click on the tab at the top that says mentioned on the podcast. You'll find today's podcast in that link. It's the podcast title. We're going to title it Generators, I think. And I will put a link to they're cheap. Hour meters are usually less than $50. And that'll tell you, if the manual says you got to change the oil every 100 hours, well, now you don't have to gas. You can just put the hour meter on there and you're done.
And where that's going to come in handy is if you're having to use it, frequently during a specific season. Just generators are like, in my opinion, like mowers or equipment. It can be seasonal to some degree on a personal level, not a commercial level. But they may be seasonal only, and so the hours sometimes, in my opinion, and you may disagree with this or you may agree with it, but I think that at the beginning of every season, and this is where when Keith is saying that you shouldn't just wait until it's time to use it to be thinking about these things. If the oil hasn't been changed in something in a season, you should probably think about doing that and then start your hour, watch from there, because you may be in hurricane season or whatever, and you have to run them for hours upon hours. So that's when you really want to know that. But at the beginning of every season, if you haven't fired one up in a while, you should probably take a look at that oil or even potentially think about
if it's been sitting for a while, for sure.
Because you're going to have moisture in there. You're going to have a lot of things, and that stuff runs through the engine. It just it may misfire. It may
it makes it harder to start.
When that happens, it makes it harder to start. They become less efficient, and it really can damage the engine. So, and make sure you use the right recommended fuel.
Yeah, that's in the manual. And I would say, just to reiterate this, even though we did kind of talk about this earlier, but just for the types of people that need the reminder that coffee is hot on the side of their coffee cup.
Right.
If it's anything except for a battery-powered generation device,
right,
don't run it indoors.
No.
It must be vented. It
Yes.
has to be outside. Okay?
Yes.
I understand, it's quieter in your house and the zombies can't hear it. I get it. Okay? But you got to keep it outside or you'll die. It's just that simple. It's
You will,
carbon
and
monoxide, and that is not good.
Yes.
History has shown us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Makes you sleepy.
Luckily, we're here to tell you about it.
Right.
So, unfortunately, there are some folks that have experienced it.
I just don't want anybody going, no, you guys on that podcast. Like, literally, they're listening to the podcast while they're pulling up next to me in the parking lot, and they're, magnetic
we're back
rule.
there again.
You
Yeah.
didn't tell
So,
me that I got to tip the generator outside when I started up, but,
Right.
now you told me that, I'll beware, and coffee is hot, by the way.
nice, man. Well, not only just outside, but at a safe distance from an entrance too, because
Yeah, I can get drawn back in. Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard of instances where the generator was outside. However, window was slightly open or whatever, and the wind was blowing just right to where the exhaust was getting inside the camper.
Yeah.
And even though it was outside, it still ended up making some of them sick. Unfortunately, a couple of them, this was not recently. This was a few years ago. They were out camping, and there were several people in this camper, and some of them got sick, and some of them just didn't wake up. So it's not good.
Yeah. Run them outside.
Folks.
And I just happened to think of this, but, I use my portable generators for this all the time because they're inverters. You can charge a car battery with them.
Sure
you got
can.
a dead car, won't start, you can't get it out of the garage.
Right.
Run an electric cable to your generator outside. It'll
absolutely
DC power.
Yeah, and we were talking, in the beginning of this discussion on generators. They come in so many different shapes and forms, and you can go to your local auto parts store or go to our website and click on the link to Amazon. We'll post it on there. The battery power packs to jump your car off. You can keep those in the
This
back
will come
end
as
of your
no
car.
surprise, but I have one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one, and they're very handy. They can certainly get you out of situations, or if you're in a parking lot and you see some person with their hood up and they need a jump, and you could be the hero for the day.
Yeah.
So
if they park next to you in the lot and they're having issues, I probably wouldn't, but I digress. Yeah. I'm not against people parking next to me. I'm against people parking next to me when I clearly don't want to be parked next to at the end of the lot. Right. Just to be clear.
Exactly. There's a reason why I'm on my own out here, people.
That sports car that looks like just rolled off the showroom floor. You probably don't need to be parking your 86 Chevy Blazer with the lower quarter panels rusted all the way through right next to it. I'm just saying.
Right. Like,
because I know you don't care about that car as much as I care about I don't know, man. I know I'm weird like that.
Have you ever been punked on that, where you come out and you got like these two big rigs and they did it just for the heck of it? Have you've seen where people do that? Right?
I've seen people do that. I saw that on a Tesla video, and the guy just pulled his phone out and backed the car up.
And backed it up. Yeah.
I think somebody has intentionally done that to me before, but it was one of those where I wasn't quite sure. It was awful close, and I was like, "Is this? Are you just that stupid?"
Right.
And I will usually leave them a little message if that happens. I will politely go and fold their mirror in for them so that I can get past the car.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not talking about busting the mirror off the car. I'm just saying.
No, they're folding mirrors. You know,
I will
it's the
fold
same
that
type
mirror
of mirror
in for them to let them know that I couldn't get through without whacking their mirror.
Right. It's the same type of mirror that
you're going to leave me this much space.
Yeah. Well, you know, you got to fold those in. They're folded in because of car washes. So
yeah.
So you know, you don't want them ending up in a box in Utah. So.
Yeah. True. Let's talk a little bit about ways to support the podcast, ways to find us. I think it's probably time for that, right?
It is, yeah. Talk about it. Let's go. You want me to? Yeah, you go ahead.
I can get halfway through this probably without
Please.
training wheels. Let's see. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/partscountergurus.
That's correct.
Okay. That's a forward slash for those of you technical people. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Honestly, that is the biggest thing you can do to help us out. Tell a friend, have them subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. It will help us in the sense that it lets us get to our 1,000 subscriber goal, where we can then unlock some things on YouTube, like having our custom channel name and letting the commercials that are running on this channel, we actually get some revenue from that instead of it going straight back to Google. Stuff like that. So please subscribe to the podcast if you have not already done so. We are on Instagram at the Parts Counter Gurus. Yeah,
yep,
I almost messed that up.
Yeah.
And see, now I'm looking at the wall. I feel like I'm just going to sit here and stare at the wall until I hit it. What else, Jay?
You can find us on several other platforms for the podcast, though, if you're audio only. You can do Spotify. Are we on Spotify?
We're on Spotify.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, we're on Apple. We're on iTunes. iTunes, the podcast, Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
We're there. Your Google Play, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. You name it. So we want you guys to, listen. You can watch on YouTube, but you can watch on other platforms. But we're there for you to allow you to give you the opportunity to listen to it in your car on your way to work. I would highly recommend that, and set it and just listen. So it's fun stuff.
If you're going to buy anything on Amazon, please go to our website first, partscounterguru.com, and click at the top right. There is an Amazon banner. Right. Click on that banner and then go buy your stuff. That way we get credit for it. It doesn't cost you any more. I can't see what you bought. So for those of you out there buying, what was that weird hoodie or whatever that you were talking about earlier? You're talking
about the one with the quick codes on it from the United States Postal Service. Yeah, the USPS. Or the tube top. I want the tube top.
Or whatever weird stuff you people are buying on Amazon. We don't know. I don't know. It doesn't. I don't get some sort of report telling me.
That's for Amazon. They're the ones tracking you, not us.
Right. So. But if we do get some referral commission off of it, so just click through our link to Amazon, and we would appreciate it.
That's it. Or you can also, Keith is real good about posting up items that we've mentioned on the podcast that's specific to this podcast, and that'll be on there. There is a tab on the top of the page on the website.
Ironically, it's called Mentioned on the Podcast. Yeah.
Yep.
It's weird how that works.
Yeah. We have our website, and we highly encourage you to go there. Is very user friendly. It's easy to navigate through. There's a few articles there. There's links to all the videos. There's just it's a nice portal to get into where we're where our stuff is, and we highly encourage you checking it out, because I'm going to write a few more things soon. Keith's got a few things he's putting together for you guys as well. So yeah, come see us over there on www.partscounterguru.com.
Well, Jay, I'm out of tea, so I think it's time to go.
Oh, really? Okay.
So until next time, that is Jay over there. I'm Keith. Remember to keep air in the spare and your mother-in-law in the trunk. Take care, everybody.
Right on.
gonna park next to this guy right here. He looks safe.